What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of SSPN Live. I know we weren't live last Sunday, but we're here tonight, and we're here to recap all the recent news in Spursworld. Ethan, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Jude. Thank you for asking. How are
Of
you?
course. I'm doing pretty good, too, We're
That's good.
rolling through school. We're back in person, so
hmm
that was cool today. And now we're here on SSPN Live. And I'm excited to talk about the Spurs because even though they're coming off a loss, it's probably the best loss of the season. Like, really, this is the first time we've kind of had a similar big three, if you will, sit out with Jakob, Derek, and DeJounte being out and still playing a competitive game with this Suns team last night. You were able to watch the highlights. I'm actually probably going to have them up in the background when you're talking about it. But what were your thoughts on this game? I know people may see this be like, dang, it was a close loss. And that's what I thought looking at the score when I had a chance. But when I realized how many people were out, I didn't even know that. I was like, wow, this is a really impressive performance from the bench unit. Obviously, want to come out with the win, but when you're playing Josh Primo for almost 30 minutes, like, that should just tell you how this game was.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the whole game. I watched the highlights and I watched the fourth quarter. And from what I saw, it was a very energetic and grit-filled game from everybody that played. We had Drew Eubanks get some starting minutes. Doug McDermott went off with 24 points, 6 for 9 from three-point land. A lot of off-balance threes that were finding the bottom of the net. So really a great game from Doug McDermott. Hopefully this continues. Hopefully he just finally found his rhythm and can just keep running from this point forward. Keldon looked aggressive. He actually had some moves, Jude, that were like he got into his bag. It was less just
Mm-hmm.
driving to the rim or shooting open threes, and a lot more creating for himself and for others, which is always great to see. Trey Jones really, to me, just continues to prove how good he is at being a point guard, just a natural floor general, a
As
real
you say that,
facilitator.
they just showed him getting a bucket, getting a floater over Devin Booker, actually. So it showed off a little bit of his bag there, too.
7 for 12, a very efficient scoring night for him. He missed his only three-point shot that he took, but that's not really his game. Similarly to Chris Paul, they really avoid that three-point line. I know he's not Chris Paul, but he has the same mindset as far as getting everybody else involved. Devin had an off night shooting the basketball, but everywhere else he seemed to be continuing to impact the game. If you thought differently, go ahead and let us in the comment section. Like I said, I couldn't watch the full game, so I could be wrong. But Devin usually doesn't leave us hanging as far as like defensive impact and moving without the basketball, that kind of thing. We finally got some Wancho minutes.
Yep, yep.
15. He didn't really do anything great. Didn't really do anything bad. Just kind of a depth guy. So nothing, nothing,
Hey,
nothing to say about Wancho.
Juancho Hernan-Gomez is a solid third string four.
Yes, exactly. Third string four, actually fourth string four, because
Well,
we also
yeah,
have Keita Bates-Diop, who did not have any minutes because of. I don't think it was health and safety. I think he
it
was just sitting
is.
out. Oh, it was. Oh,
Yeah, but he
health and
has
safety.
exited as of today, according to Paul Garcia. So he'll be
Excellent.
good for Tuesday's game.
Excellent. You already touched on Josh Primo. He played a great game. I thought 13 points, showed the confidence that we've all seen all year long. 3 for 4 from three-point land, including a very clutch three in the end of the fourth
It's the
quarter.
second time he's done that this year.
He's got a lot of guts and a lot of confidence, and I love to see that from our 19-year-old rookie. And Lonnie Walker, abysmal from three-point land, but pretty great from everywhere else. He finished with 22 points on the night with only 27 minutes. I was kind of surprised he didn't get more minutes considering everybody that was out, because Trey Jones got 33, Devin got 31. But, he made the most of what he was given. And we lost the game, yes, but considering we didn't have our best three players, arguably, in Derek White, DeJounte Murray, and Jakob Poeltl, I'm very impressed with what everybody else was able to do.
Yeah, the Suns right now 40-9. I
Yeah,
believe I'm trying to figure out where they're at in the standings. The ESPN
they're
app is
first in the
being dumb
West.
right now. Yeah,
Pretty
so
sure.
literally the first. Yep, exactly. They're the first team in the West actually by about 3.5 games right now. So to literally take the number one seed to the wire with your three best players out, three most experienced players out, as of right now, just an awesome performance from these
hmm
guys. I was seeing some of the other tweets, just looking into this game, watching it for the first time, and looking into it. Paul Garcia was talking about how Lonnie said after the game, it really just kind of shows the guy's grits. And I
hmm
think that the other thing about that, and where I think that's really an important point, is that sometimes these guys have bad games. Like obviously, like Doug doesn't always shoot the way that he did in every other game. But on a game like tonight when they needed it, they found a way to get buckets. Lonnie, you mentioned, didn't have the most efficient shooting night of all time in this game, but still was able to find a way to put up 22, which is what they needed in a game like this. It's looking like they actually went to halftime. Yeah, they did. Went to halftime up, and still were competitive the rest of the game. I just watched Trey Jones throw a lob to Drew Eubanks. I mean, this is not in a game like this when you're playing the first team in the West. Just a very impressive unit or a performance from this unit, and it's just another sign of good things to come for the future. Obviously, you never know what could happen with injuries and stuff, but this was a really good performance from these guys, and it's going to be interesting to see how these guys progress in their roles, especially next season when these guys are getting consistent minutes like a Trey Jones.
Mm-hmm. And a side note stat, 87% from free throw line, way improved. Hopefully we can continue doing that. I know DeJounte and Jakob are probably the biggest culprits as to why our percentage is not that high always, but just it's nice to see. It's nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Mesquite Rock says it's a peek into future contenders. Look, that was a really good performance. We're going to have to see how things happen, but a lot of young talent on this team. Eric, thank you for being in here. You didn't miss too much. We've just been talking about the Suns game so far. And just another note and kind of another topic we wanted to touch on, we kind of have to criticize ourselves here a little, Ethan. We came in hard this season talking about Drew Eubanks. And then obviously, we do have to adjust to what we see on the court. But, we kind of hopped off,
Yeah.
And that's on us because he has really had a resurgence, got the start last night, played really well against Bismack Biyombo, also in the game against the Bulls, which we'll get into in a little bit in the show. Another great performance. He's really just come on and started taking those minutes from Jock. And obviously, there's still a lot of potential from Jock. We can talk about maybe him moving to the 4 next year as a possibility. We talked about that last episode as well. But even in the Memphis loss, also, he played a good game. He's really just... It seems like his rotations and his comfortability in the system, like all the things that we were criticizing him for, he's much better at. Like, it's not a disaster when he's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just confidence, honestly. I think like he lost his confidence early in the season because he had so many mental mistakes, so many, like you said, bad rotations and just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that got to him. And then we got Jock Landale, and everybody, including you and me, were like, let's put Jock in there because surely it can't be as bad. And Jock really took his spot, deservedly so. And then Jock started getting a little inconsistent because teams started kind of figuring him out, and he started missing a few more threes than what he was hitting earlier in the season. And Drew had a chance to kind of earn some of those minutes back, and he has, to me at least, proven deserving of those minutes, at least sharing them with Jacques. Maybe not getting the full backup minutes, but sharing them instead of just being a bench warmer, because he has something that Jacques doesn't have at this point, which is a more of an understanding, I think, of the system because he's been here longer, and also he's more of a physical, aggressive player.
His
in
motor.
The post. Yeah, his motor, his athleticism, his ability to kind of jump and block shots and get some dunks, I think is a little bit better than Jacques. Obviously, Jacques' a better shooter, a better passer, probably a better basketball player, but he's a little out of shape, I think, which is kind of hurting him in some aspects of the game, especially in the NBA level. And surprisingly, he gets bullied a little bit too often. I think that's just going to be a shape thing, putting some of the heft to the side and maybe putting a little bit more muscle on during the off season. So long run, Jacques Landale I think is our backup over Drew Eubanks. But I'm happy to see that Drew has kind of found that confidence again, found the niche where he belongs in the rotation, and he's finally playing up to those minutes that he's been given.
All kind of the image of what we wanted him to be kind of going into the year. That's how he's been playing in these games. Nothing crazy, but just somebody who's going to be an energy guy, come fight in the post, get some boards, can even throw down some lobs as we saw from Trey Jones. So just that type of energy in a big is something that you always love. And obviously, depending on the matchup, we've talked about this so many times on the show. Maybe it's going to be better to play Jock. We've seen, sometimes they'll run a small ball even with KBD. Although in small ball, I'd say now with the way Drew is playing, that would be the opportune time to play him with the way that he can run the floor as well. But yeah, like you said, just the energy that he's been bringing and that physicality, we kind of came into the season, and one of the things that I remember when we were looking at Jock and looking at some of the things, okay, this is maybe where he could get better off of his Olympic tape, was just that kind of physicality. Even though he's tall and you look at it and you're like 6'11", 255, but like you got to understand, when you're 6'11", 255 can still be skinny, you know, and that's kind of the best way that I can describe Jock right now. And obviously, like, look, Jock Landale is in very good shape. He is an NBA basketball player. But at the same time, there is a difference between NBL pace and NBA pace. And I think it's just that, like, once he gets a little bit more conditioning in another off season and he can be a little bit faster, a little bit swifter, a little bit quicker on his feet, I think that's really going to open up the opportunity to him to play at the 4. Obviously, we don't know what's in the Spurs' plans. We don't know what the future holds really with the head coaching situation. I mean, Pop, we think he's probably going to finish out his contract, but who knows with Pop? He could retire after this year and just decide it, just because it's unpredictable with the Spurs. You never know. They keep so much internally. But if he does end up potentially making that move to the 4, you know, that offseason could really be a chance where he would be able to get, you know, that quickness and have the time to do that. And hey, remember DeMar DeRozan, who we'll talk about a little bit later? One of the things he said about DeJounte last year was he's probably one of the fastest players in the league. So not saying that DeJounte can just give Jock his speed, because that's definitely not possible, but you have one of the quickest guards in the league that can maybe show you some footwork things of how to be quicker. I mean, you know, that's getting a little bit nitty gritty there, but the point is you have somebody who is very fast who can give Jock some pointers on how to get faster. So he's not going to have that natural talent, but I'm sure there are some things that he can pass along. But anyways, getting to our question here from Eric. He says, Jock at the 4 or Kaycock double-double machine at the 4? So look, I'm glad he brought this up because Devontae Kaycock has continued to kill it in the G League. Yes, it's the G League, but I mean, Zach Collins is down there playing well still too, putting up similar numbers. And we have seen Kaycock come in and get some NBA minutes. And it seems like I think that he could be competitive with just about any bench 4 in the league with his physicality and the way that he plays. The only problem is the shooting. So that's the only thing about Kaycock. If you're going to play him at the 4, which I like just because he's 6'7", and he can guard on the perimeter, like he just can't really play offensively on the perimeter. So you're just going to have to play him next to a Jock Landale or a Zach Collins. But when it comes to this question, I don't know. This is a tough one. We're going to have to kind of see how Kaycock progresses, if he's even on the roster next year. Honestly, right now, I think if you would have asked me a couple games ago, I probably would have said Kaycock, just because I really like the physicality that he brings, and I felt like that was something that we were needing. But I think right now I'm going to roll with Jock at the 4 more, just because of the fact that Eubanks has kind of brought in what him and Kaycock are kind of the same thing. You can maybe argue that Kaycock's rebounding is better, but like NBA experience-wise, even though Drew struggled earlier this year, he still has more. He's taller. You know, I think it's just kind of repetitive at that point, so I would roll with Jock.
Yeah, I agree with you. At first, I was going to say I like Kaycock too, but the way
I'd really like to see him get some minutes.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from him when he did come up for the short period of time that he played in the NBA, and everything that you said is correct. But it's kind of that syndrome that like everyone loves the backup quarterback.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like, I love him right now, but give him more time in the NBA, and he might prove that he's no better than Eubanks or Jacques, or in fact is even worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like once teams start to figure him out a little bit more.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I do like his potential, and I think the other thing that we've talked about on the show is that we would have to cut somebody or trade somebody to bring him back up, because I think he's used all of his two-way time in San Antonio, so we'd have to give him a guaranteed deal. So maybe after the trade deadline, if we can move Thad for just a pick and not get anybody in return, then sure, I'm fine with bringing up Kaycock, because that's a depth guy. But at this point, we can't.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see, what were our other topics today? So Demar's return on Friday, obviously a special game for San Antonio. A big win. Demar had a great game. So we really got the best of both worlds in that game, because we got to see Demar go off and the Spurs got the win. So I was able to watch the highlights of that one. Wasn't able to watch it in real time. I was out at work. But still, the effort that DeJounte had in that game and Keldon, when you watched it, you knew they were like, it was like little brother versus big brother, first
Yep.
time getting to go at it, and they got the win. What were your thoughts on this one, man?
Big win. Happy with everybody's performance. The bench played well. Lonnie and Devin each had 11. Primo had a solid 5 points in 13 minutes. Always happy to see him get some playing time. Like you said, DeJounte Murray continues to prove why he's a deserving all-star. That was a bad way of phrasing it. He is playing at an all-star level. Even if he doesn't get the all-star nod, he is an all-star in our eyes with 29 points, 12 assists, 9 boards. I mean, those are just crazy stats. Keldon played out of his mind. Jakob Pertl played out of his mind, especially going up against a former All-Star center and Nikola Vucevic.
And it's like a former two-time teammate for Jakob, too.
Yeah, he had him in Toronto.
You forget
and
he was with him in Toronto, so yeah.
I was happy with how we played. I will say this, though. If Chicago has Lonzo and Caruso, probably a different story. Because they're going to slow down DeJounte a little bit more, and Derek's not going to have 9 assists, probably. I hate to say that, but it's probably true.
If you want to make it real simple, those two combined are scoring more than 9 points.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
But what you were saying is absolutely true too, because those guys are defensive dogs. And man, Kobe White, they've really turned him into just a straight sniper, dude.
Yeah,
Remember when he was a point guard, and now they're just like, dude, go out on the perimeter and let it fly.
He's hitting them. He's hitting them all right.
Oh my gosh. Another thing too with DeJounte in this game, not only was it, him going up against his big bro, but also going up against his Seattle native, Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, also an unrestricted free agent this summer. Obviously, I think the Bulls are definitely going to want to keep him. And the Spurs don't really need any more guards, but I don't know, maybe Derek White for Zach LaVine? What?
Straight up, yeah.
Who said that? Actually, that wouldn't work because, well, I guess you could do it at the deadline if you really wanted to, but they're not going to do that. They're going to roll out the whole year. But I'm sure Chicago will probably offer LaVine the bag.
Yeah.
But just another reason why DeJounte, whenever it's these type of games, he always steps up. And that's why, we love his performance. Almost another triple-double, basically with 9. Had 3 steals as well. I love the energy from Keldon, too, on defense when he was playing Demar. Clapping it up, but it was the most wholesome competition that I think I've seen all year, watching a game. So it was just a really fun game to watch. Even Doug, didn't do too much, but was able to contribute, hit some threes. Lonnie and Devin played a pretty efficient game. Same with Primo as well. So just an all-around solid performance. And DeJounte getting almost 40 minutes. Keldon's been playing 40 minutes consistently. He played 40 minutes in this game, and he played 40 minutes in the game on Monday. So that's another little interesting tidbit kind of going on with the roster right now. They're really gassing out the Olympian, I guess you could say.
He can take it. He's got energy for days.
But any kind of final thoughts on this Chicago game?
It was a good win. A good team win. High energy. Loved what I saw.
All right. Well, once again, guys, we're sitting here and Zach Collins has been recalled to the San Antonio Spurs. He is out on Tuesday. So yeah, and it's return to competition, reconditioning, according to Paul Garcia. So this is what we had before. So ideally, this is the last time. Let's hope he passes the test or whatever they want to call it, because last time this happened, they sent him back down. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But do you think that there's a good chance that he plays after this Tuesday game? Or is this just speculation at this point and we should just stop?
I honestly have no idea.
That's how I feel.
I hope so. Jude. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
So Tuesday is against the Warriors, so at that point it really doesn't matter. So the earliest he could come back is that Thursday game against Miami, but they do play a back-to-back against Houston. So I have a feeling regardless, he's not going to play in one of those games. Even if he comes, say he comes back on Thursday, they're just not going to play him in the back-to-back because of that's how Spurs always treat dudes in injuries. So that's just something to keep an eye on watching the games this week. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. I would agree with that too.
Get his
Um,
confidence.
not Miami. Miami has been playing really well
Yep.
too.
You
That's
hate to throw him in against Bam Adebayo immediately.
yeah. Oh Lord.
Even Christian Woods,
You
like
well,
a
you can't throw Jock in. You're gonna give him flashbacks from the
oh,
Olympics.
yep. Phew.
But just once again, I feel like we've talked about this so many times. But where do you think you could see him fitting in the lineup when he does come back?
I like him at the four, at the starting four, and moving McBuckets to the bench three, and then or maybe the bench four. I'd rather him play at the bench three, but
Me
honestly,
too.
he'll probably come off the bench for a little while because that's just how the Spurs are. Anything we want, Jude, they
Yeah,
won't do it. So it'll be a while, but I see him coming off the bench probably as a backup center,
that's
honestly.
what I think too.
Initially, until he gets kind of his momentum going, or Pop decides we got to change things up because we're just getting beaten up too often on the interior.
Yeah, he's going to have to get his chemistry, and I think that they're just going to kind of stick with the continuity of the system that they've been playing in. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he splits minutes with Eubanks. Or if
Yeah, me
they,
neither.
depending on the game, that it may be him and Jock, kind of like what they did with Thad earlier. I think eventually he's going to take over those minutes, but just with the way that they kind of did that at the beginning of the year and set that precedent, it makes me feel like that's what they're going to do with Zach, especially also, like I just mentioned, the way that they treat these injuries. I'd be surprised if he gets 20 minutes until like 2 weeks from now, honestly. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but like at least like it's going to be probably like
Yeah,
four or so games before they really start giving him minutes. Especially with the way that he got sent down to Austin after he was out when he was called up due to reconditioning, literally. So
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I agree with you. I think they're probably just going to stick him in. It's just going to be the same lineups, except they'll stick him in as the backup center, which, hey, once again, we talked about that physicality and those blocks, and that's something that he's going to be able to really bring with his
Hmm.
length, as well as his stretch five ability. It's just going to be really exciting to see him fit in with this team because we've seen how 3-point shooting has helped, and it's crazy because it feels like you can still get better, and he's one of the main reasons, one of the main reasons that the Spurs could get better at 3-point shooting with him inserted into the lineup. So fingers crossed again. It's been
Yeesh.
like 3 straight episodes where we've been thinking he's going to be back and he hasn't. So once
Yeah.
again was recalled. We'll hope it works this time because he could really make a difference on this squad.
He's
Uh,
literally just like if you combine the good things from Eubanks and the good things from Jock,
yeah,
then you got him.
exactly. That's the best way to describe it. And looking at just the standings here in the NBA as well, let's check in on the Spurs because I haven't even looked. Okay, so about, let's see, can I count? 2.5 games back from the play-in. It's going to be tough to do just because, well, actually, no. Damian Lillard's out for the year, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to guarantee anything, Ethan, but I think that Zach Collins could be a difference from an 11 and 10 seed.
It'll be tough. We have to go on a win streak.
Very tough, but only 3.5 games.
Mm.
And honestly, at this point, I think the Spurs might be a deeper team than the Blazers. But what do you think?
I forgot about something. Well, first of all, I agree with that statement that they are a deeper team than Portland at this point, because we have DeJounte Murray and they don't have Damian Lillard. Pretty much how I'm going
Yeah,
to sum it up.
yeah,
And now that I think about it, we have All-Star break coming up soon.
yep.
So Zach Collins and everybody's going to get another big break.
It's a
So
great
after
point.
All-Star break, we'll probably come out swinging, and that's when we'll give full minutes to Zach Collins and really see what the lineup is going to be moving forward. Probably.
Yeah, so here's an interesting. Well, first of all, not to just completely ignore that. That's a great point because I totally forgot about that, and that's going to be good for these little injuries
Hmm.
that Dejounte, Jakob, and Derek apparently has like a bunch of little things going on. So if they can, that week is really going to help just it's all good for the Spurs in regards to Zach Collins and their big three, if you will. But Ricardo Martinez in the chat, we appreciate you being here, my guy. Do you guys think that Collins can one day take Jakob's spot? A lot of peeps forget how good he was in Portland. What do you think about that, Ethan?
I think it's too soon to say. We haven't seen him play in so long. The NBA is really a completely different place now than it was back when he was, playing pretty well. And I know he was playing great in Portland, but I don't want to overstate how good he was. He was not an all-star. He wasn't even close to being an all-star. Maybe he was good, and I'm hoping great things from him. But I don't want to say that yet, because Jakob's been playing really terrific basketball, especially as of late. Definitely a top 10 center in the NBA. Arguably, I don't want to say top 5, top 7 maybe, top 7. I have to count them off of my hand, so it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Probably not.
Yeah, I'd say probably not too, just because of Jakob's like defensive ability. And I know that that's not maybe the most descriptive thing, and I'm trying to think of like ways to describe it, because it's really hard to describe, because the stuff that Jakob does doesn't really show up on the stat sheet. It's kind of just like his anchoring in the paint. That's the best way that I can describe it on defense. And while Zach is definitely more physical, and we've talked about how, we're excited for his blocks, I think he's going to bring a lot of energy plays on defense. And honestly, he might make more like big plays, if you will, on defense than Jakob does, but that doesn't take everything into account. And with that being said, we've seen Jakob stuffing some dudes lately. So Blockub and there's not a nickname. You can't really throw Block into Zach Collins, but you got Blockub and Mean Mug Zach. There we go.
Yes.
In the paint. So getting to Ricardo's question, I think that possibly, but that's going to depend on, when you say like one day, right? That's the key word here. If for some reason the Spurs move on from Jakob Poeltl in the coming years, then I think, yes, Zach Collins would be the guy to take that position. I think they signed him for a reason, and he's getting paid kind of around where Jakob's getting paid, a little bit less. Obviously, there's just a lot less guaranteed, but if he does turn out to come back 100%, be the player that they expected him to be, and fulfill that money, then it seems like, if you look at the contract wise, they kind of expect him to be that type of big for them. So it's going to be interesting. And if he doesn't come back, I think, yes, Zach could take that spot. But like you said, it's too soon to tell. I can't guarantee that. I'd have to sit with Jakob, roll with Jakob as of right now, just because of all that he's done, how consistent he's been. And recently he's had a couple games with like 20 and 10. So the fact that his offensive ability is getting up more and his on-court chemistry with all the guys, I definitely would say Jakob's probably going to be the starter moving forward, unless something else happens.
I do want to say this, though. I don't think, first of all, yes, I don't think Zach Collins will take the starting spot from Jakob Poeltl, but I also don't think Jakob Poeltl is the center of the future.
Yeah.
So somebody will take the spot of Jakob Poeltl, but I don't think it's Zach Collins. It'll be whoever we draft this year or next year, or God forbid the year after, if we wait that long to go draft a center, Jude. But I don't think Jakob is going to be the guy starting at the center spot when we win a championship. Hopefully he's on the team, because I think he's a great center and he provides a lot of things for us, but I don't think he's like our cornerstone.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think he is either, but he's definitely a super valuable player in the league. And Yoga talks about that right here, saying that Jakob's not an injury-prone player. Ideally, we're going to hope that Zach Collins, just had 2 injuries back-to-back. We've seen that happen with some people like Clay, right? We know Clay's not injury-prone just because he had those 2 things, and he's come back miraculously and has hit that 3 the other night. So we're going to hope that works out, but obviously we still understand the concern. We've talked about that a bunch on the show, especially with it being a lower body injury. I can't count on both hands how many times I've said that. But yes, Jakob's play style is definitely priceless, because think about it. DeAndre Ayton out right now. There's a lot of bigs that have got hurt. We've seen Yusuf Nurkic have some bad injuries. That's another former Portland Trailblazer. So that's going to be very interesting to see how it happens. But good point by Yoga there. And kind of just on this conversation, here's a really good question by Eric Pacina. Do we pay Jakob? obviously this is a couple years out. We're not going to have to worry about this until next year. And I think a lot of it's kind of going to determine on how next season goes. So it's kind of hard to answer that question as of right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would pay him like a big bag.
Yeah. Ask me next year.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. I think if we were going to pay him, it would kind of be like Doug McDermott's contract. That's what I'd give him, which is kind of crazy because Jakob gives so much more than Doug McDermott. So this is actually a really interesting question because there's probably going to be a team out there that throws him a big contract. Like, think about Jared Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, Jared Allen's way better. But
Okay.
I think, personally. Yeah. But somebody will give him a big bag, but he does like San Antonio, so I don't know.
Going back to Zach Collins, Boudet just said, hope Zach can contribute like Bobby Portis in Milwaukee. I actually really like that comparison. I feel like that's a pretty realistic just for year one with the way that he's probably going to play with just some spot minutes here and there. If he can come in, just give some energy, be physical in the paint, and hit some threes, that's a really good comparison. So what do you think of that?
I'd be fine with that. We could use a Bobby Portis right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he was one of the guys we were hoping to maybe sign in the offseason this past year because of how well he played in Milwaukee, how important he was.
Going back to Jakob, Yoga says 13 to 15 million a year with a player option. I think that is definitely realistic for Jakob, but I know we don't want over 20 mil, but I have a feeling that somebody's going to offer him a lot of money just because his defensive ability is really, really solid.
Yeah, well, let's see how he plays next year because his defensive ability has always been really solid, but it's as of late where his offense is kind of catching up with it. Mm-hmm. So if he keeps doing it next year and he continues to be one of our best, not only scorers but facilitators, if that makes sense, out of the post, then yes, most certainly somebody will give him a contract.
And hey, I just got to give a shout out to Mosquito Rock here. He always interacts. He disagrees. He says Jakob is the future. I hope so, man. Hey, look, he's been playing really well these past couple of games. If he does that consistently, if he's giving us 20 and 10 every night and being, the defensive anchor, maybe. I don't know. We're going to have to see how these guys develop. But still, I'm with M-Easy here. Jakob is not a $20 million player. Yeah. But we know how free agency works, and depending on the market and the center market, he might get it because we've seen that so many times. And speaking of that, we were kind of talking about like fun topics we could do on the show. And this isn't necessarily like the Spurs, but what's a player that you can remember who got a big bag and then completely didn't work out?
Chandler Parsons.
There you go. Right? There's so many. Which year was it? I want to say it was 2016 or something like that. Like Alan Crabb got like $15 million a year. I think in Portland, he got like a $50 million deal. There was like all those role players that just got a heck of a bag because of just the market that year. There weren't very many big names, so everybody was just like competing because they could demand that type of money. So
Davis Bertans, Boudet just said,
Yep,
there's one. Jonathan Simmons, if you want to go there.
Right. Think about it. Jonathan Simmons making $8-9 million a year really didn't do too much in the Magic. Ben Simmons, that's a good one. Boban contributed everywhere he went. So
you know who Jakob kind of reminds me of? What I'm scared of about giving him a big deal is he gets so many of his points because DeJounte Murray is so good. So it kind of reminds me of like Steven Adams.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
Yeah, because for a while there, everyone was like Steven Adams is like all-star, like borderline all-star center. He gets
that was him with Russ.
With Russ, because Russ was so good at drawing too and just dropping it off to Steven. And Steven Adams is a good defender even still, and he was always a pretty good defender and all that stuff. So that's what scares me. I don't want to give him that much money and then have him just be Steven Adams 2.0, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's the thing is though, like.
And I like Steven Adams, but I don't want to pay him that much.
Yeah, because the thing is, though, Steven Adams is doing a really good job with the Grizzlies right now. I can't lie. But they also have Jaren Jackson Jr. to play next to him is the thing. And John Morant.
And when you would never say Steven Adams is the future.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's very true. All right. Well, some of the other fun topics that we had in this episode is if we could choose one role player to bring out of the Ben Simmons. Everybody's in the comments. Yeah. We're gonna have to see what happens with Ben Simmons because right now he really has got a bag and hasn't done much. But hey, we'll have to see Easy. Maybe time will tell if you're right. And yeah, I wish Jakob was as
Yeah,
strong
that'd be nice.
as Steven Adams too, Eric. Definitely. But anyways, getting back on topic here. So, who is a role player, Ethan, from around the league that you would bring on if you could just choose? We had a magic wand, maybe take somebody off the roster and give some other player in the league their minutes on the Spurs. Who's somebody you think would fit really well that you'd really like to bring?
If I could pick anybody, I would go with Lou Dort from Oklahoma City. I think he fits next to pretty much any player because he's a 3-and-D guy. He's very physical. He can play basically 2 through sometimes 4. I wouldn't play him at 4 personally, but 2 or 3 kind of fills that need of a 3-and-D guy. You can plug him in anywhere next to any other player on our team, and he would really, he would basically be the Doug McDermott role, but a defensive like juggernaut Doug McDermott, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know it's kind of funny, like when you think of that comparison, because it's like, Doug McDermott, not defensive juggernaut, but that would probably be how they use him on offense because he can hit threes. Obviously, it's probably he actually. Well, I was about to say he might have more driving ability than Doug, but then I'm remembering this whole year I've been impressed by Doug's cutting ability and his ability to get buckets inside too. So that's a really good comparison, actually, the more I think about it. And so Lou Dort, I would love. I think he'd probably take Lonnie minutes. I have to think about it, if I had to choose somebody right now. So if you could replace Lou Dort with Lonnie, I think that would just add to kind of the defensive mentality, the youth movement. That's somebody who I think would definitely fit with the Spurs. I want to say that he's from Germany too. So I know he went to Arizona State, but I think that he's from Germany, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look that up because if he is, that's just another thing with the Spurs. Okay, no. He's from Montreal, Quebec, so he's from Canada. I wonder if he grew up playing with Josh Primo in the Canadian AAU circuit or something. But we also got some other ones here in the comments. DeAndre Hunter, Yoga says, that's somebody that I would really like. I think he would fit in well. This was somebody I also thought about. The only problem is his contract. But Mikal Bridges, that's somebody who definitely would fit well. And I love what Easy just said here because I was talking to you about how my role player that I'm going to talk about here in a second, I found out and got the idea of signing him in 2K. And this is somebody else that I signed in 2K, which is Jalen McDaniels. He was somebody I kind of liked out of San Diego State at the time. But obviously, we got Trey Jones. You can't really complain about that, especially with the Suns game. But Jalen McDaniels definitely has been doing a solid job over there in Charlotte. He's 6'10", so he's somebody that you can really run at the 3 through 5 because he's got that ability to play on the outside, hit some pull-up jumpers, or just kind of have to stretch roll, catch and shoot. He's a really dynamic player, and it's gonna be interesting to see like what a Jalen McDaniels looks like in a couple years. For sure, because I think that's somebody who could develop into a really, really solid and versatile player. But somebody else who is a versatile and solid player is Kyle Anderson. And he's actually an unrestricted free agent this summer. So it's going to be really interesting to see if that actually could become a possibility. We were kind of talking about the big depth. It's going to be tough, but bringing Kyle back is something that we could do if we wanted to maybe just play, like we talked about, playing Jock at the 4 or Zach at the 5, or, depending on any movement that happens, it'd be, you'd have to see. But obviously Kyle would fit in because he was like Bryn. He'd be like a better version of Bryn Forbes, I feel like. Like when I say like different than Bryn Forbes, obviously, but like in terms of bringing him back, like bringing back a former Spur, I feel like he's somebody who would fit in and contribute a little bit better. But yeah, Easy actually met his brother on the Timberwolves, so there's another one too. And I think that is still so Jaden McDaniels, right? Jaden and Jalen. Oh. And they're kind of like the same player too.
Yeah, they're very similar.
I might have actually, I'm not sure which one I signed now that I think about it. So
a Jay McDaniels.
Hey, any of the McDaniels brothers, because they're both getting minutes right now. But going back to Kyle Anderson, we know Slow-Mo's ball movement. He can pass. He's really turned into a stretch 4 out there with the Grizzlies. He's somebody who could play the 3. He's basically just like kind of a better version of KBD. Obviously, KBD has been playing so well, but just with, I think, Kyle Anderson's passing ability, that puts him just a little bit of a step above KBD in that regard. But yeah, he'd be somebody that I'd like to bring back if possible.
Solid. Bobo 2.0.
There you go. Exactly.
Really?
That's a great way. But skinnier.
Yeah, more in shape, Bobo.
But hey, doesn't matter. Bobo is still killing the Heatles.
I love Boris Dio.
I just want to have breakfast with him. I want him to cook for me. I want him to. I need some French cuisine from that man.
Pause. Get a little too descriptive with what you want from Boris Dio.
Easy says precious on the Raptors as well. Okay, but we also had another fun one that we wanted to do, and that's your favorite bench mob player of all time. So somebody, shout out Bude and Yoga. But like when we say this, we don't mean like somebody who's contributed. We just mean somebody who has rode the bench for the Spurs. So like, an example, because I don't think any of us picked him, but you were mentioned like a Quincy Pondexter type of player. So who is your favorite bench mob Spur of all time, Ethan?
Oh man, you know what's funny? I didn't even think about one. We talked about this.
We talked about it for a while. Is the funny thing.
Ooh. If you have one, you go ahead.
Okay, so it's not even necessarily like my favorite bench mob player of all time, but it's just such a funny situation. I have to roll with Luka Samanic because we thought that he was going to be, so much. And like, I think that he's been still playing really well in the G League for the Knicks, but like,
what else is new?
He hasn't done anything in the league. So he's just the same thing over there. Like, all well wishes to the kid. And hey, regardless, he's a kid from Croatia coming playing like G League and making really good money. So at the end of the day, Luka Samanic is winning, playing professional basketball, making lots of dollars. But as we can see here from Craig Jackson, Matt Bonner. See, the thing about Matt Bonner, though, is he played. We're talking about dudes who didn't play. But obviously, the Red Rocket is a GOAT. David Lee and the Deadman connection, that's a good one there, Yoga. We mentioned David Lee a little bit earlier. And somebody else, this is just going back to last question, since we're on David Lee, like warrior to Spur. Another role player you said you'd like to see is Gary Payton. How do you feel like he'd fit? Or Gary Payton II. How do you feel like he'd fit? There you go. Tracy McGrady million. That's what we're looking for. Aaron Baines. Yes.
T-Mac might be mine.
Thad Young is a good one.
Yeah. He does look so bored on the bench. He doesn't even react to dunks anymore. He just like.
I'm so glad he got laughs in that interview with Trey Jones.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm glad we did something to make him happy.
The Gary Payton thing, I think he fits perfectly next to a Trey Jones and a Devin Vassell off the bench and taking Lonnie minutes once again, unfortunately. Similarly to Lou Dort, he's a guy he's super athletic, more athletic than Lou Grant Dort is, so he can get up, catch lobs from Trey Jones, who's an unbelievable passer in transition. But he's also just a dog on defense, man. And you could slide him in, honestly, and if you wanted to put Derek off the bench, you could slide him next to DJ and not lose anything. That'd be a deadly backcourt as far as defense
might open
is
up
concerned.
The offense a little bit in the starting lineup as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. But my bench guy, I think I got to go with T-Mac from Million. I just love that he was on the team, and he was a rebound away from winning his only championship, and then Ray Allen hit the clutchest shot in history, and T-Mac retires without winning a championship. And he honestly, I don't know why he didn't just stay one more year. Like just write it out. We'll pay you $5 to sit there, and you get a championship, and you're T-Mac, the championship guy now, not the T-Mac, one of the many that didn't win a championship at average 32 points a game. So disappointing, but yeah, I love Tracy McGrady. He has to be mine.
Well, Yoga does disagree a little bit with Gary Payton, but he does agree that he likes his defense a lot. So, it would be interesting to see him play with other players because definitely Steph Curry does attract a lot of attention. Obviously, DeJounte is working on his way to attract a lot of attention as well and is doing that. We've been seeing a lot of players around the league giving props to him. But that is a good point there just because... Steph, like when you play with Steph, he can make a lot of people look good. But,
that's true.
Gary Payton has developed a lot in the G League over the past couple years. So that is kind of another interesting Spurs connection on top of the fact that it seems like Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich just trade players all the time. Like
He'd be Bruce Bowen.
Quindary is on their team, right? Isn't he on a two-way?
Yeah, he is. Quindary
Exactly. Exactly. This is what we're talking about. Nando DeColo is another good one. Obviously, Kojo. Shout out to him. Is he still making money with Sacramento?
Yeah, I don't think he's with Sac. He's with Detroit.
Oh, nice.
I'm pretty sure. Him and Trey Lyles are over there killing it.
Oh my god. So it's either Detroit or Golden State.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, bringing George Hill back.
To do what?
I know he's old, but hey, look, hey, well, actually having him as a third string guy, that'd be, I don't know.
Just do what?
Just
might as well sign me.
Just to make the
No, I'm just joking. I like George Hill, but
no, but just to make the Kawhi trade full circle.
Yeah. Ended up with George Hill again, not the Claw. Andre Miller, yeah.
That's a good one. Kevin Martin, too. Kevin Martin was actually somebody who was supposed to be like that. And
he just wasn't.
It just wasn't. It did not work out with the Spurs. It's the end of his career, unfortunately.
Yep. That's funny, man.
Austin Day's a good one, too. But I think I'm running out of these type of players. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm running out of names too. Dang. Brandon Paul. Nobody mentioned Brandon Paul.
Okay, no. That was who I knew I was forgetting somebody else. BP3, the legend. That was his and I was like, oh, this guy. I was like, we're gonna make this guy a stud. That was like just the way he looks. I was like, if he can just be 3-and-D, he's gonna be solid. But
mediocre Richard Jefferson. Oh, hey, RJ was solid.
Oh Lord, and he went, and now he like, oh, he's had so many pop moments in his media stuff too.
Yeah.
Glenn Big Dog Robinson.
I forgot we had Glenn Robinson.
Me too.
That's funny. He's great.
I guess just to kind of wrap up this episode and put a little bow on it, let's go ahead and look at this week moving forward. We already talked about it a little bit, but here we go. If the ESPN app would work for me. Ooh, so I think there's a lot actually going on with Aaron Baines. I totally missed that. Somebody mentioned that in the comments earlier. Definitely peace and love to him. Yeah, so there's a fall. Oh, wow. Holy crap. I didn't even see this. Did you see this, Ethan?
No.
He had a freak injury that left him unable to walk and alone inside a Japanese hotel. Wow.
What?
Yeah, we're going to have to get into this more. Maybe we'll ask, but yeah, basically point is shout out to Million and peace and love to Aaron Baines. That I think is the best way to describe it because I don't want to talk about that like not informed before I've read the article. But once again, to wrap up this episode, got 3 7:30 games. They're all at the same time if y'all want to know that. So there's some 6 o'clock games next week. So this will be a little bit easier if you're getting off work and doing that 9 to 5 life. You should have enough time to get back and watch the Spurs game, relax a little bit. And they're all at home too. So nice little home stand here in San Antonio. This is a tough stretch, but I feel like the games get easier with every game. The first 2 are not really easy at all. And I think the Rockets actually beat us earlier. So that's not a guaranteed win either. Yeah. But you got Golden State. That's arguably going to be tougher than this Phoenix game. But hey, you just put up a really good fight against that Phoenix team. But also Golden State with Clay and Steph. That's just going to be a tough one. I really don't see us winning that one. But if they pull it out, obviously, prove me wrong. I would love it. And then you got Miami on Thursday, which, won't be as tough, but still a problem. They're really hot right now as well. And then you got Houston on a back-to-back on Friday, which will, if you lose those first 2, ideally, you can lock up that one at least this week. But I think if the Spurs can go 2-1 this week and steal that Miami game as well, or even if they beat Golden State and lose to Miami, that's still a successful week. I think 2-1 would be a solid week for these guys. But what are kind of your thoughts on these 3 games?
Yeah, 2-1 would be great. Let's shoot for 2-1. Let's go. 2-1.
Monty Williams was sweating last game.
Yeah, he really was.
And it's funny you mentioned that too, because I forgot to mention that also after the game, I mentioned Lonnie's comments. undefeated going to the All-Star break. That would be awesome. We want that, but this is gonna be tough. But anyways, going back to that game, Mikal Bridges also had comments about the game yesterday, and he said, "Look, it feels like whenever you play the Spurs, like in his young NBA career, what he's taken away is that regardless, they're going to be ready to play. It doesn't matter who's on the court, doesn't matter what's happening. You know, he obviously complimented Pop, and I believe Mikal was on Team USA, right?
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
I think he was, but I could be wrong there. But regardless, just to hear from like a legit NBA player give respect to guys like Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, even Eubanks starting, that was just another good thing to hear, especially when you hear it from the opposing team's perspective. And he wasn't. Thank you, Bude. I appreciate that. I don't know why I did, or why I thought that. But another good question, I think, to end it out is chances DJ is a reserve in the All-Star game. Once again, I think this all comes down to who ends up being the coach. But as Yoga says here,
it's Monty Williams.
It is Monty Williams. Okay, thank you.
But the assistant coaches pick, I think.
Okay.
So, all 30 assistant coaches in the NBA get to pick. Pretty sure that's the case.
That sounds like probably the most fair and reasonable way to do it. So that seems like it's probably right. But DJ's getting more and more recognition. He got the shout out from Ernie Johnson and Bobby Marks, who we know is one of the most prevalent ESPN. Usually he does a lot of free agency and like cap stuff, but also he's just a prominent basketball personality that is in the know of things. And he had his basketball reserves. It's just his opinion. And he said that DJ would be who he would put in if they didn't put in Draymond. And the only reason he put in Draymond was because he just felt like the Warriors were having such a good season this year that Steph, Clay, and Draymond all deserve to be in it. We can argue that a little bit, but I can see where he's coming from to an extent. But still, point is, DJ has been getting a lot more recognition, and it feels like it's not guaranteed, but it feels like as time progresses, as we get closer and closer to the All-Star game, it feels like his chances have gotten higher and higher. And I want to say also, I'm glad we mentioned this because shout out to Drew King. He's been in the chat here before, a fellow Spurs fan, and also my boss. He was telling me, here it is, this is actually big. DeJounte is the 5th guard among media vote and 6th among players. So it's not impossible. That was his exact words, but that is where DeJounte is at right now. So he's moving up in the fan voting, or the player voting. Actually, it's not fan voting at all, but the media voting and the players voting, which also have a say. And like we mentioned, the assistant coaches there's going to be some consistent coaches out there who definitely pick him. So it seems like, once again, his chances are just growing and growing. And remove the positions and DJs in. That's a good point, Bude.
I'm going to go with because I don't like to say 0, I'm going to say 1% chance that he makes it. I hope I am wrong, but I'm almost positive that he will not be on the All-Star team.
Yeah. That's really a nuanced take there. And it's funny you say that because the title of this episode is The Return of EuGOAT. And one of the things that Drew Eubanks just said in one of his most recent press conferences was, the guys don't really worry about the media attention. They understand what it's like in San Antonio. He even made a point. He was like, I don't know why the Memphis game took off ESPN. Like, that was literally a great game. It was 118-110. You get to see two of the best guards in the league go at it, like DeJounte and Ja. Mm-hmm. But of course, both small markets, so it gets taken off. But they know, they don't take it personally. It just fuels them, it seems like.
How many do
we gotta believe?
How many reserved is it?
I don't know. We should know these things.
I'm gonna see how many I can name.
We have a YouTube show about the NBA.
yeah, maybe we should.
But I'll Google it.
Educate ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, people will let us know how stupid we are in the comments. It's okay. I'm not worried about it.
Now I don't know. I have connection with you and I'm live, but my Google search isn't loading.
Isn't it 7?
It is 8.
8. All right. Let me see how many I can name off the top of my head.
Well, no, I meant like it's 8 o'clock.
Oh no, I meant how many else? How many reserves?
Yeah, and no, Ja would win that one for sure. Yoga. And look, we do believe we believe in it. We believe that
7.
DeJounte is an all-star level player. Like he should be, but it's just whether or not it happens. But I understand we got to put the energy out there. So we're gonna hope. Hope that he deserves it and gets it. But
2 guards, 3 front court, and 2 wild cards. So CP3 and Devin Booker are in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you put? Okay, let me think.
Bude confirms 7 as well.
You can keep saying what you were saying. I'm just trying to think.
Honestly, I finished my thought.
Okay. I'm trying. Clay will probably make it.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell, is he hurt or is he in?
He's probably going to be in. I don't think he's hurt.
I would say that. Luka Doncic, is he a starter? Yeah, he is. Yeah, is he? Is Luka Doncic a starter? See how bad I am? Because is it Steph or it's? I know Ja is a starter.
I don't even know. I haven't even looked.
Steph a starter or is? Yeah, whatever. Either way, he's not making it.
Yeah. CP3, Book, Mitchell, Gobert, Luka. Those are locks.
Yeah, 100%. And I would even say that, unfortunately, what's his name probably has a better chance. From Memphis.
Yeah, Ja.
No, Ja's already in. I'm talking about JJJ.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah. I know
Somebody mentioned him earlier. That'd be another person that I'd love to have in San Antonio. But yeah, so Ja and Steph are the starters.
Yeah, so Luka, CP3, and Devin Booker, and yeah.
I wish they didn't do it by position because it's like you could play Luka in the All-Star game. You can play Luka at like the 3. You could play him at the 4 if you really wanted to. He's 6'7". Like, and it's not like it matters. It's just a pickup game.
Yeah, whatever.
So
maybe next year.
Oh, and did y'all see about the Wiggins fan boat? This is actually a really fun topic. I mean, it's kind of disappointing, but it's also like really funny. For those of y'all who don't know, like I'm not really into K-pop, but it's a huge thing like on the internet and just like globally. And BTS, which is like one of the bigger bands in it, I think. I think they're like the biggest. They are like one of their people who has 8 million followers like tweeted saying that Andrew Wiggins deserves to be in the All-Star game. And he's like, have you seen this? Did you see this?
No, I didn't know that.
No, yeah, he tweeted, he was like, and it was like NBA All-Star Andrew Wiggins. And so they have their, their mass amount of fans, right?
Yeah.
And they're all just going all in on it now.
That's awesome. Honestly, good for him. Good
That's
for Andrew.
so meme of the year for sure. And it's That's just so funny great. How the internet can literally like, do something like that.
That's so wholesome.
It is.
That makes me happy.
It is wholesome, but it's also like, I mean, I don't know. Andrew Wiggins has been playing well, but I hope that he doesn't like. He's gonna get in over somebody who doesn't.
Oh, he's a starter, dude.
Oh, that's right.
He's a starter
because of the fan vote. Oh Lord,
that's crazy.
Insane. What a world we live in. So
I mean, he's having a great season, but
no, he is definitely having one of the better seasons of his career for sure. Yeah. He's revived himself in Golden State.
Yeah,
want to give him credit, but it's just like you see that and you're like, dang.
Yeah,
DJ, he has been solid. They can vote in anyone. Exactly, Bude. That's the crazy thing. So, K-pop taking over the NBA. Good way to.
We just need to form a K-pop band and then get DJ in.
No, this is what needs to happen. And I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but we need to get BTS to San Antonio. This is how we're going to get people into the All-Star game.
Yep.
This is how we're going to get Keldon in.
You got to draft a Korean K-pop player.
Right?
Does he?
Yeah, I think he does.
Is she joking? Or he or she joking?
Yes.
They're probably joking.
Yeah. No, our entire team loves BTS. We
got to draft a Korean player.
No,
I don't care how bad he is. We just need to bring him in.
Need to get BTS in the HEB commercials.
I'm fine with that.
I think that's going to get our entire starting. Trey Jones is going to be starting, baby.
Heck yeah. I'm down.
Move over, Ja. Move over, Steph.
Mm-hmm. Trey Jones in the house. Perfect.
Oh, my Lord. All right, y'all. Well, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us today. Of course, if you're just joining, you can always catch the recap. Or not the recap, but the reposted version of this is going to be live on YouTube. If for some reason you don't see it in the uploads, obviously if you're watching right now, you're already seeing it, but it is under past live streams. If you ever don't catch one, for some reason don't see it in the uploads, if you're on our homepage and you go to past live streams, it's always going to be there. And the other thing is too, if you're driving somewhere and you can't watch it, you can always listen to our podcast platforms as well. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, a bunch of other places too. Basically whatever platform you're using, it's going to be on there. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Ethan_Quintero and myself at Jude McLaren. If you want to stay up to date with stuff today, didn't have time to post this like in where it does a little preview and says upcoming live stream, but did tweet it out right before we went live. And of course, if you liked this channel, enjoyed your time here, had some fun, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your other Spurs fans, friends to like and subscribe. And we appreciate you guys being active in the comments. And thank you, Million. We always love you being in here. And we'll catch y'all in the next one.